I'm Babu Cherian, Principal Architect, BCA Architecture firm based out in Kerala. So we are a size of 35 odd people, and we've been practicing for the last 20 years, the whole of South India. The projects we've been doing, we do the whole gamut of projects, right from individual bungalows to multiple units of apartment buildings to community dwellings, healthcare, hospitality and commercial enterprises. The client brief was very simple. This was a house for two brothers. In fact, the twin house, one a mirror of the other. They're two businessmen. They approached me. They want a very traditional Kerala house with modern amenities. So it has to be very contextual. They are a family of two. So the requirement is very simple. They wanted these many bedrooms and stuff like that. But the architecture should be very much rooted to the nature and the environments. This plot is in the heart of the city, in the nerve center of Calicut. I would rather say around 150 meters from the main road. This is around 60 cents of land. This was a major chunk of land. It's oriented in the east-west direction. So on the other side you have this road. So in an urban scenario, you have all the underpinnings of a rural context here. The sun path this is how it goes. So if you look at the plot, it is sort of rectangular with a linear space in front of it. The most important thing was blocking this two houses. So we have one block here. We have a mirror out here. We have a huge plaza in between. There is a clear hierarchy of spaces in this particular plot and the design. It starts off with a very public plaza. It's totally green. Then you have another courtyard. Then you have another courtyard, and you have a al fresco dining here. So as I said, we see a very interesting hierarchy of spaces right from a very public space here and to the semi-public space here, which is a veranda which runs all around the house, and then we get into the very intimate or the private spaces. There is a huge scope for landscaping and there are well-set gardens all across. As far as the neighborhood is concerned, we have some isolated houses here and there. So this place, even though it's in the heart of the city, it's got a lot of privacy. So my idea was to make this a very rural setting in an urban context. The house which we are talking about is called the Ramraj house. All I have to say about the Ramraj house, it's honest architecture. It's very simple. It's simple in its naturalness, its material palette. Everything about it is very simple and it flows with the landscape around. You have a very interesting living room. Adjacent to it, there's a court. We have, from the living room, we enter another big courtyard, and then you have the puja room. Adjacent to this, there's a bedroom. The staircase, and you have the dining, and adjacent to it, it's another bedroom. So we have two bedrooms in the ground floor and the two bedrooms on the top floor with a library as well as a children's area on top. Then we have an open kitchen and then the rest of the utilities. The interesting and the most romantic part of this house is a wide open veranda in front, which is connected to an interesting carport. We have a very interesting al fresco dining, which is again an open court here, and the wonderful verandas. If you look at the spaces, it's all free-flowing spaces. It's not a defined cubist thing, it is spread out. We have these winds coming out like this. Getting into the house, the cool air drives in, gets sucked by the courtyard and goes out. So this draft keeps happening every now and then. You have to understand the weather, the climate of Kerala, which is 6 months of rain and 6 months of hot, humid climate. So the humidity is pretty high. So unless otherwise we just stagger the plan and allow the air to come in and go out, then it's going to be very suffocating. I must admit that, or rather say that, most of the common areas are not air conditioned. It's just the natural draft that gets into it. Except for the bedrooms, which are air conditioned, the rest of the whole area is not air conditioned. So this wide verandas have seatings. So the entry is one from here and one from here. And the huge green lawn in between. And all across you have small trees or plants. The interesting part of the house is to enjoy the weather in Kerala. We have 6 months of harsh rain, and the driving rain index is not vertical, it's just horizontal. So you have huge overhangs. You can sit out here and watch and listen to the rain. You can sit inside and again watch the outside. So I would rather say this, it's more of an inside-outside house. As you get inside, you get to feel nature. This particular courtyard is a wet and dry courtyard. It's usually kept dry, and when you feel like you need to change the mood, you can fill it up with water, have flower petals or leaves or whatever it is, and make it more lively. When we do traditional Kerala architecture, we don't deal with much of material palette. It's all local things which been used here. So I always say that my architecture is all about laterite masonry being plastered and painted white. I've used abundant use of wood being done, like it's locally available teak wood. And then we have the mangrove pattern tiles, which is laid on rafters, wooden rafters. So if you look at it, the palette is very simple: laterite, plaster, paint, and the wood as well as the tiles. So there are three colors coming into it: the white, the red of the roof, the brown of the wood, and the greenery around. The most interesting part of any traditional house is its roof. The roof, as Jeffrey Baba said, is the most enticing and the most important thing that comes to one's eyes when you meet a building, which is largely ignored in the contemporary architecture. We don't get to see the roof at all. But here, when you look at this plan, there are layers of roofs coming up here and there. So when I talk about roof, it's very simple. You have a first floor room, you tie it up with a sunshade, you have the roof here, you have a balcony or something here. So if you look at it, we have a plinth, we have a sunshade which around sloping to a 33 degrees overhang, and I got another sloping roof and a gable here, which is again is sort of a funnel to draft the hot air outside. So the sloping roof's design has to be in such a way, in such a proportion that the roof fits into it. You can't just have a cap on top of it. It's not cap architecture. It is certain principles and proportions being done into it. You have to be very careful in handling it. People and nature is getting very much into the cyberspace and stuff like that. A look into the back is very important, and that's what our office has been doing, and that's what our practice is all about. We just go to the past and design the future. So it's not like copying what is there in the past, no, not at all. It is the architecture and the design revolves around the climate. Answer to the climate and design accordingly. So any movement or deviation away from it create wrong architecture. So it's my feel we should be influenced by our architecture, innovate it in our fashion, and produce a better thing which goes with the present context of things in life, so that becomes the future.